yo soy la única aquí. Alrighty, thank you, Mr. Armijo. The time is 1:45 p.m. here on October 23rd, 2024, and I will call this meeting of the South Central Regional Transit District Board of Directors to order. If you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
All right, well then we'll move on with a roll call, please.
All right. Not seeing Mayor Javier Perea. He's absent. Trustee Powie.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Hernandez is absent, but he has a stand-in, Mr. Navarez. Are you present?
Present.
Thank you. And I see Mayor Murillo is absent, but Commissioner Sanchez present, and Councilmember Flores
Present.
present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right. We'll then move on to agenda item number 4, which is the approval of the agenda. If I can get a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Councilor Flores. I will second that motion. Are there any concerns or changes to the agenda?
No,
Very good.
thank you.
All right, then I will take a roll call vote. So we'll start with Trustee Powie.
Yes.
All right, Trustee Nevarez.
Yes.
Councilor Flores.
Yes.
All right, I vote yes, so that is 4-0. We have an approved agenda.
Thank you. You're more efficient. Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 5, which is the approval of the minutes for September 25th, 2024, the meeting held on that day. If I can get a motion and a second to approve the minutes, please.
So moved by Flores.
All right, I have a motion by Councilor Flores. I will second the motion. Are there any comments, concerns with the minutes? Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing any. All right, so we'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Powie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Nevarez?
Yes.
All right, Councilor Flores?
Yes.
All right, I vote yes, so that is 4 for approval, 0 against, and so the minutes from September 25th, 2024 is approved.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the public input section of our agenda. Are there any members of the public? I'm just waiting for someone to slide in the door.
Or online.
Are there any members of the public? I don't think online, not that I see.
Okay.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the executive director's report.
Mr. Chair, I was going to ask, although we have approved the agenda as is, can we move this one to the bottom of the agenda because we have some approvals? And I know Trustee Howie is wrestling with some wild cats.
Oh, okay. So then, if there are
They're not wild.
all right, well, if there are no objections, then I will move agenda item number 7 after, let's say, agenda item 13
Yes.
before the future agenda items.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Then we'll move on. Agenda item number 8, which is discussion and a resolution approving the amendment to the fiscal year 2025 budget. Mr. Shea.
Good afternoon, members of the board, South Central Regional Transit District. I'm Adam Shea, the finance officer. The first order of business on this is the amendment to the budget as of the end of the first quarter. First page has to do with the expenditure portion that I am requesting adjustment for. The end result is a credit of $84,326.59. The reason for this, as you will see when we get there, is on the revenue page, I overstated estimated revenue. So this here is an adjustment to bring our budgets into line expenditures to revenue. The total amount that I am requesting is a reduction of $84,326.59 from the expenditures. That would bring the total adjusted budget to $2,921,582.67. As you can see on the next page, under revenue, you'll see where I vastly overstated the estimated revenue. I'm sorry, is that a question?
I think that was just.
I think so too. Okay. As you can see, the gotta go back there.
We're good. They're muted. Go ahead.
There we go. I'm sorry, who's adjusting it? Okay, as you can see, as far as the revenue, there were $125,891.19 in overstated revenue. This has to do with estimated amounts that I was working off of at when the budget was approved back in July. We did not get a final agreement from the state until after all this had been said and done. So this was in reducing the revenue by $125,891.19 would give us an adjusted budget for revenue of $2,995,357.53. Now, reducing the expenditures of $921,582.67 to come up with a
Adam,
net.
can you scroll it down? Oh, there you go. All right. Yeah, at the bottom. There you go. Go ahead. I'm sorry. We couldn't see what you're saying, the numbers.
Oh, I see. Well, this thing is in the way here.
I think if you click on, oh, that works. You put it to the top right or
There
something.
you go.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. As you can see, we are reducing from $3,121,000 by $125,000. The net result is $2,995,357.53. Basically, that comes down to a net balance of $73,774.86 left over after expenditures. And again, this is estimated, and this is just the first quarter. We have a fun year ahead of us. Finally, on page 3 is the capital. In this case, it is actually an increase of $3,289,752.95. This is because we received 2 grants of matching funds, as well as we have a solar array that we secured. And then the adjustment under the 5307 has to do in large part because of the overestimation from the approval of the budget originally. Finally, under 5339B, it's an increase of over $2,434,886.20. So in essence, we are requesting an increase of $3,289,752.95, which would give us a grand total of $12,168,160.34 for this fiscal year under capital. As you can see, these heights have not yet been reached by this agency, so it's, like I said, an exciting time coming ahead.
Let me try to add a little
Yes, sir,
explanation.
please.
And then can you go back to the last slide on revenues?
Revenue,
You
yep.
never could really see that last line because it was still high up.
Can you see it?
Well, I can't see it on the screen.
No, it's not there.
It's just not there?
It's just not there.
which-
It's on
But
the
you can
slide,
see it on the pages. Okay, that's
on the
fine.
page, on the
It's on
page or the slide that's here in the booklet, it's the same thing that's here.
so-
So you don't see the totals at the bottom.
And I apologize. I went ahead and I added it all up and
If you go up one, I think one more page.
So,
you'll see the totals.
so if I can add to his capital, the reason you're seeing so much money is, yes, we received a lot of capital. So this includes capital we received in 2022, which is just now getting to be drawn down, about $2 million in the next 6 weeks for the new bus facility acquisition in Southern Park. The second part of that is the 2 first buses, electric buses, that will be produced in November, delivered in the 1st of December. That will add another 2.2 million. So just from those 2 projects, and that's the federal side of it, we'll be processing about 4.2 million. Added to that is we have 2 grants from DFA, the state, one for 300,000, one for 268,000. Those are in there too, and then we'll be drawing on those. So those are 100% funded. We will not use any of our own local money for either of those projects, but it adds to it. We just received in that last 2 board meetings, as you recall, we had the matching funds from New Mexico matching. That was almost $1 million, and then we picked up 2.8 for another grant, and then the solar array and so on. That added about 4 million. So all this is adding up, and now if you carry over for the CMAQ money, which is the El Paso MPO from last year, that's another 5 million. That's how you get to the 12 million. Will we spend all this in the coming year? No.
But putting it on the budget.
But we have to show it.
Right, but putting it on the budget this fiscal year and everything, we'll be able to show at the end of the fiscal year, going into the next one, what we're carrying over.
Correct. And so at any rate, this has become a very big challenge for Adam to go through it. One of the things we hope to do in this coming year, probably between now and the budget, is we really need to show a separate document. And in fact, I've had conversations recently, you were somewhat present the other day. I've talked to the county on a couple of occasions about, leaning on their financial advisor. We need a multi-year project. I actually have this down in a multi-year document that I share with Adam. That is easier to read than this, and I'm nothing personal, Adam. You're trying to get it to fit on a page, and you cannot get it to fit on a page. It's got to be multiple pages. It's got to be long that. So we're going to come back. We'll bring a little more information. We beg your indulgence, but I also have asked for help from an outside party, and I think the county is in a good position, perhaps help give us that expertise in looking at it, because they have to do it. So we're not trying to recreate the wheel. Actually, we're trying to find the right wheel to follow through on. So anyway, sorry for that. But I did want to emphasize on the revenues that we are showing a net savings, and we're under budget in the first quarter.
So far, yes.
Okay. So sorry to jump in there.
Absolutely, thank you for clarifying. Are there any questions so far as the amendment that I am requesting?
Are there any questions, board? I just have one, and I just want to make sure, and just curious, as I go through and see the adjustments that are listed in the previous, if you go up one. Because I see there, what you did, there was an increase. If you go up one more page, there you go. So I see, right, I see there's an increase in supplies. I see an increase in IT services as well as postage. And the other reason I note that is because I wanted to make sure, at least when understanding some of the, where you were taking off some of the items, but I look at like the bus, the facility lease and fuel. Are those areas that we do believe will have some savings in, or we're going to have to adjust and find?
At this point, we're going on estimated. These adjustments are primarily, the positive adjustments are because our expenditure actual was exceeded the 25%, okay, that we would have for the quarter. However, these other credited items were way lower than the 25%. So when we get to the financials, which is the next section, you'll see what I'm talking about, that the ending result was less than 25% as far as expenditures for the quarter after these adjustments.
Got it. Okay. No, and I just wanted to make sure, like I said, that I follow you, and so.
At this point, we're just going based on our estimations.
Yep. No, I understand, and that's what I just wanted to make sure. So
Yes, sir.
That makes sense, and so I appreciate the
Yes, sir.
explanation. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
Want to move on to the next one?
All right. Well,
Does
let's.
this require approval?
Yes, it is. We have so what I'll need is I'll need a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the amendment to the fiscal year 2025 budget. If I can have a motion, please.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Counselor Flores. I will second that motion. All right. If there are no other comments at this time, I'll take a roll call. Start with Trustee Powie. How do you vote?
He's working with the cats.
Margie. Major.
Trustee Powie, are you there? Hold on, we're unmuting you. Hold on. Oh. Uh-oh.
Yes.
There
Oh,
you
there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Sorry.
No worries.
No, you're good.
Trustee Nevades, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right. I also see that we have Mayor Perea that's joined us on the call as well.
Oh, good.
I don't know if you were able to listen to the conversation and would like to cast a vote.
Yes, yes, I want to do the conversation. I logged in at what is it, 1:54 your time, and yes is my vote.
Okay. All right. We have a yes. Counselor Flores.
Yes.
Okay. And myself, I vote yes. So that is 5-0 for approval. Thank you so much. All right. We'll move on to agenda item number 9, which is a discussion and resolution for approval of the first quarter financials. Mr. Shea.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. As you can see on the document that is on the screen now, unfortunately, it says fiscal year 2025 budget amendment. Unfortunately, I did not notice this until today, but this is actually the document for the first quarter financials, not the amendment.
Okay.
So on the first page, notice what our cash balance is as of September 30th is $421,907.75. The item that
You
is
sleep
out,
better at night now?
pardon me?
Sleep better at night now?
Just a little. There's still a lot of work to do. One of the things that is not included in here is the deduction for the payment from one of the buses, which amounts to about $190,000. Okay. The next page is the expenditures for the first quarter. At this point, the expenditures amount to $700,076.81. That amounts to about 24% of the total budget. And again, this is after amendments, and the amendment is listed there under total adjustments. And as you can see, under the percent year-to-date, we have 25.2%, for instance, in wages that have been paid year-to-date, 21.8% in employee benefits. But we're also down, like, for instance, contractual services was only 11.8%, which was paid out in the first quarter. The operating cost is up a little bit by 31%, but that is because what falls under there is like membership dues and some of the one-time payments that we would execute at the beginning of the fiscal year. So at this point, it's a total of $700,076.81, which would leave a remaining balance of $2,221,965.86. If you would, on the far right column, year-to-date expenditures, please delete that column because that's supposed to add up to the 700,000. And I noticed that I had a equation error. So my spreadsheet came up wrong. However, it is $700,076.81. Are there any questions regarding expenditures?
Are there any questions, board, on expenditures? Okay, not hearing any. You can proceed.
Sir? The next page is the revenue. As you can see, we received a total of $891,866.80 of the total $2,995,357.53, which amounts to 29.8%. So for the first quarter, we are actually up over the 25%. And this is probably, well, this is due to Doña County's annual. We bill out 22% at the first quarter. And so that amount is lumped into this particular balance. Now, after the expenditures mentioned, we would have a total net of $73,774.86. Are there any questions regarding revenue?
Board, any questions on revenue? Okay, not hearing any.
And finally, the last page is the capital. It is summed by the type of capital. For instance, 5303, 5304 at the top has to do with planning. And we received none, or well, we've only received 2.4% of the entire $12,168,160.34, which kind of makes sense. We did only receive, was it $289,222.70 of this $12 million, so it makes sense as far as what the 2.4%. This amount is for from the 5307 in Region 6 for the purchase of a support vehicle. Also, facility refurbish grant through the New Mexico DOT for the Anthony facility. Real estate acquisition, these are legal fees that we have submitted and received back from the New Mexico DOT as far as legal fees for the purchase of the Sunland Park facility, and electrification equipment. Since we're putting electric chargers within our facilities, we spent $217,000 on that alone. And this amounts to a remaining balance of $11,574,978.64 in capital. Are there any questions?
I'm not hearing any.
This concludes my presentation on the first quarter
The
financials.
numbers will be going up very quickly.
Pardon me?
The numbers will go up very quickly, your second quarter report.
Indeed.
All righty. All right, board members, are there any comments or questions on what was presented? All right, if not, I'd request or ask for a motion to approve the first quarter financials.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Mayor Padilla.
No, Nevares.
Oh, sorry, Trustee Nevares, I apologize. Okay, thank you, Trustee. All right, I have a motion by Trustee Nevares. Is there a second?
Second by Flores.
Okay, I have a second by Councilor Flores. All right, if there are no comments or any other input, I'll take a roll call. All right, Trustee Powie, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, Trustee Nevares?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Mayor Padilla?
Yes.
All right, Councilor Flores?
Yes.
All right, and Commissioner Sanchez, I vote yes, so that's 5-0. The first quarter financials are approved. Thank you. All right, then we're on to a discussion and resolution to approve a $100,000 grant for the 10-year service and financial plan for NMDOT. Mr. McDaniel.
Good afternoon, Board. Let me go to the next page. So for this item, SCRTD is applying for planning funds from NMDOT to renew the district's 10-year plan. We had our previous plan approved in 2020, and a lot has changed since then, certainly grown quite quickly through and after COVID. So as the district has grown more rapidly than expected, we need to rework our plan to reflect new goals. The grant will cover the costs of the new plan. We're looking at about $100,000, and SCRTD is required to provide a 20% match of $20,000 for this grant. However, staff is pursuing matching grant funds from NMDFA, as you'll see next in the next item. If you want any details on the plan, I can give those to you, but otherwise, I'm here for any questions.
All right, board members, any questions on the resolution? All right, if I can get then a motion to approve the resolution.
So moved by Flores.
Thank you. I have a motion by,
Second by Mayor Murillo.
oh, Mayor Murillo, thank you.
Hey,
Yes, sorry.
No worries. I don't, I can't see you on the screen, so I appreciate you speaking up so I know you're there. Awesome. All righty. All right, I have a motion by Councilor Flores, a second by Mayor Murillo. All right, if there are no comments or questions, we'll do a roll call vote. All right, we'll start,
It's getting bigger.
I know. All right, we'll start with trustee Powie. How do you vote?
Yes.
All right, trustee Nevades.
Yes.
All right, Mayor Murillo.
Yes.
All right, Chairman Padilla.
Yes.
All right, Councilor Flores.
Yes.
Thank you. And Commissioner Sanchez, I vote yes. All right, that is 6-0 on approval of agenda item number 10, which is a $100,000 grant for the 10-year service and financial DOT. All right, now to agenda item 11, which is discussion and resolution approving a fourth New Mexico matching fund request for $20,000 to support the 10-year service and financial plan.
All right, thank you, members of the board. As seen in the previous item, SCRTD are applying for $100,000 in NMDOT planning funds for an update to our existing 10-year service and finance plan. NMDOT requires a 20% match from SCRTD of $20,000. And this item is to approve our application for the New Mexico DFA match fund grant for that $20,000 match. I'm here if you have any questions.
All right, are there any questions on the grant application that's going to be submitted? Making it easy today, so if I can get a motion, a second to approve the resolution to submit the grant application to the New Mexico, or request from the New Mexico Matching Fund for $20,000.
So
by
moved,
Flores.
Nevares.
Okay, second by Flores.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by trustee Nevades, a second by Councilor Flores. All right, if there are no other comments at this time, then I'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Powie, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, trustee Nevades,
Yes.
Mayor Murillo,
Yes.
Chair Padilla,
Yes.
Councilor Flores,
Yes.
and I, Commissioner Sanchez, vote yes. That is 6-4, 0 against, and that is approved.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir. All right. Now we're on to discussion items. This is agenda item number 12. It's a update on a discussion between Doña County and the South Central Regional Transit District regarding the loan agreement. Okay, Mr. Armijo.
Yes.
please take it away.
lost you guys.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I can hear him. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Trustee Polly?
I can hear you, but I can't hear them.
Oh,
Oh,
all right.
okay.
Wait, can you hear us now?
yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
What did you do?
I think we accidentally got hit the mute button so here in the chamber. So I think we're back on. And so I was just at the point introducing agenda item number 12, which is a discussion between Doña County and South Central Regional Transit District regarding a loan agreement. And so I'll turn that over to Mr. Armijo.
All right, thank you very much. I've incorporated my comments on this item in my executive director's report, so I'm wondering, could I do that now?
Yeah, I mean, if there's
No approval. on this.
no, we're done with our approval section. So, well, there is one more.
That's not even approval.
Is it?
Discussion.
It says, oh, is this discussion regarding the holidays?
Yes,
So what if we do that one, if that's okay? If it'll be
Please,
quick, and then that way you can do it all at once and.
then we're done.
All right, so we're gonna bypass, if there's no objections, what we're gonna do is combine agenda item number 12 and 7, which was been moved to the end of the agenda, and go ahead and skip over to agenda item number 13, which is a discussion regarding approval of discussion for the amending the annual meeting schedule, regarding November and December board dates, which I assume is right around our Thanksgiving and Christmas time. So.
Yeah, so if I may bring up, this is an item that we approve every January for the year, and then we have conversations. However, historically, what we've done is either in November or December, if there's a need for meetings, we have sometimes special meetings. That can also be affected when there's election years. So it's always been, let's just see what we are. It's a little more of an ad hoc. However, what we do know is that this, in December, if I can work backwards on the calendar, December has the meeting date actually on Christmas Day. Now, I know the building's available, but I'm sure that the county would not like to have us come in here, and I don't think we want to be here. So I think that's probably a foregone conclusion that we would go dark in December. For November, we've done meetings on the day before Thanksgiving before. It's always a little challenging to get a quorum, but I'll be honest with you, we have had a lot on our agenda the last 3 months because we've been approving grants every single meeting, And two of the items are on, when we started this meeting, it was going to be Adam up here. No one else, 2 items. And all of a sudden, I had 2 items, which I gave to Tim, and he just did, and now I'm talking. So, and I came up with this one because I think we might want to consider going dark for both meetings of November and December, but only the board can make that decision.
Yeah, absolutely, Council Flores.
Yes, so perhaps this is quite obvious, but I just wanted, so there's nothing that is timely, nothing that has to be done between now and January 2025?
Not that I can see, and if there were something, then again, we always have the option for a special meeting.
Correct. Okay, just wanted that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I just had a suggestion, and I don't know if the board might consider this for now. If we wanted to, at least let's maybe consider having at least a date for a December meeting in the case we need to approve something.
Okay.
And if there is nothing on, then we can cancel it, or would the board just rather not have a meeting, and then we can announce a special meeting if we do need to meet? I don't know, Chair Perea, what, do you have any suggestions or how you may like to proceed?
We lost them. I can't see anybody.
All right. Mayor Perea, are you there?
Can you hear me,
Yeah,
Commissioner?
Yes, I do. I can hear you.
Okay, Javier is online, but he's muted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we just sent a request to unmute him. He may have walked away. I said, I mean, I could go either way.
Well-
I think if there's no plan, we could just do a special board meet, yeah, where if we absolutely need to meet oh, there he is, okay.
Mr. Vice Chair, sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know if you were listening in or if you had to step away for a second there.
I did have to step away briefly there,
So,
but I think there's to modify the Open Meetings Act resolution.
well, it is, I think that'll be the understanding of whether or not to cancel the meetings in November and December. Right now, Mr. Amijo has indicated he doesn't anticipate having, because we've approved several items today, there's probably may not be a need to meet. And so we were just deciding or having a discussion whether to cancel both meetings for now. And then we can call a special meeting should we absolutely have to meet during that time. Or 2, we could keep one of the 2 meetings on a calendar at a different day. And then if we don't need it, we can always just cancel it. So it's just a couple of I mean, either way, it was just a matter of how to address it if we absolutely had to meet.
I think the easiest thing would be just keep the meetings in place, and I mean, just cancel us. I mean, if nothing really pops up, we can just cancel, the week before. But I think it's easier to have it in place and have that one, that time locked in for everybody, and cancel rather than having to figure out whether we can get a quorum some other day.
Well, I think, and the concern is that in December, the actual meeting is on Christmas Day. Yeah. And
Well, that would be true.
and then in November, it's the day before Thanksgiving. So I think that was the concern, is reaching a quorum.
But even if the meetings remain, we still have the authority to call a special meeting. That can be done anytime. Well, 3 days notice.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why we were saying if there was a thought, we could potentially cancel these meetings now and then call a special meeting should we have to meet for a reason.
If I can add some clarity, Chairman Padilla.
Sure, go ahead.
So following the bylaws, you are correct. I mean, you can leave them in place today with a certain understanding of the members of the board. The decision to call the meeting and go dark or to issue a special meeting would be under the chair's purview. So it would really fall to you to make those decisions, and then we would communicate that to the rest of the board. And that's what we do now, so that's not changed.
Yes, I think that would be the easiest thing to do.
We can do that.
Yeah.
I felt it was important enough, given the season, to at least let the board take a look at their schedules, but that's fine. So we can just leave it as is, and then we
But
will notify the board of the changes as they approach.
When you say
I do want to say I'm not going to call a meeting on Christmas Day.
on the day before
Thank you.
Thanksgiving? So I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So what is it that Javier is trying to, what wool is he trying to pull over our eyes? No, en serio. Javier, were you saying, or Mr. Chair, were you saying that to keep November 27 on calendar?
I was saying just to keep the, what's already in the Open Meetings Act. As the time approaches, then we see that there's nothing needed, then we can simply cancel the meeting. If something does pop up and that time is inconvenient, we can always call a special meeting, or the chair can call a special meeting, and that just requires a 3 days notice. But obviously, there's some planning in place, making sure that we have get a quorum.
Well,
But I don't think there's need to.
My concern is
Modify.
this,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. If I may, my concern is that the 27th is the last of November, is the last Wednesday of the month, and it's also the day before Thanksgiving. I know I'm going to be traveling, and then Christmas Day is definitely out of the question. So, and I don't know about anybody else, but I think that other people will be traveling or having plans otherwise. So I would prefer that nothing be scheduled, and if there's some kind of an emergency, then that could be called and see how many board members would be available. I mean, there isn't anything that's timely, is there, at this point?
No, Mr. Mayor, Chairman, the other point we might want to bring clarity from the history of when we've had to do this, and we've had to do this during the holidays before, is we've tended to do this as a Zoom meeting. So it would be WebEx only.
Oh.
And it would generally be the one item. So probably, unless it's something really serious, it's going to be done in 15 to 20 minutes.
We can.
So we can just leave things as are.
That's fine, and then if there is a concern around meeting quorum, I think as the mayor had indicated, we can look at scheduling a meeting where we need appropriately, so, okay.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I think, like I said, I think at the end of the day, I think the discussion is we have flexibility, and we'll have to just determine and figure out understanding with the holidays that we may not be able to make quorum and may need to change the day, so. Okay. All right.
Turn off my phone.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I just want to let you know, I think we're close to the end here, but I'm about to lose power or battery power on my phone here. So I'm going to go ahead and step off the meeting at this point. You should have enough for quorum. Is that correct?
Correct, yes, and we're at the point now that all we have left is the executive director's report and then a discussion item, so we won't have to vote on anything. We think we've approved and completed all of that portion of our agenda as well, so I thank you for joining. No worries.
No, that works.
Okay.
No, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't be there. Travel got in the way again.
No,
But I should be back eventually.
I completely understand, as I know I haven't been here the last couple of months as well, so I appreciate it. So thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Appreciate it all. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll go ahead and start. David Armijo, Executive Director's Report. I'm going to save the suspense on that item 12 for it's my last part of my presentation. So just an overview, I've got several points I want to make. We're talking about, I'm going to give an update on where we are with Sunland Park. A lot of activities happening, and you'll see some slides here in a minute. And a ridership by route. Last month I gave you ridership for 8 years, and so now I'm going to break it down for you. Again, you saw the New Mexico matching grant. We just got the 4th one approved. We're in the process of actually getting the money and contracts, so I'm going to go over that. We just approved a 10-year plan of service, which was quite unusual since we just got the funds and started that process 5 years ago, but we've actually already accomplished 80% of the plan. Hence the reason for it. I didn't even know this until I was working with Tim, and we realized that going into COVID, we were carrying roughly 70% less ridership than we are today. So we've increased 300%. We've increased the number of vehicles and so on and so forth. So the rest is history. The actual, and she's not here right now, Sarah Vasquez is finishing up the changes. We're actually going to release, now that this is approved, we're going to release the request for proposals this Sunday. It'll be posted and it will actually be released and put on our website. And depending on when the board does meet again to award the contract, we expect that won't be done until January. But that does give us a jump and allows us to do this in the spring. The last time we did it was during COVID, so that wasn't a great time. So we have a lot of fun. And what that means is we're going to be talking about the service that we have. And I'm going to give you some glimpse of what that could look like. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the New Mexico direct grant recipient request. That was added to my presentation this morning because that was denied earlier this morning. I will go into details as to where the New Mexico DOT thinks we're going to go and what options we still have. And then I'll talk about what the financial options are for the district. And that gets to the issue of the loan on item 12. So this is starting tomorrow. We're actually going to be doing a survey as the last phase of the purchase of the property. So the survey will do an architectural rendering. As of right now, the only architectural rendering is this from God knows 2 decades ago. I guess this was a truck facility and so on. But this does give you some insights where you see the building that's whited out over there. That's our building now where we manage our buses. So that's a pretty good look of trucks going through. We have two bays in that garage. What's at issue here in the center of the diagram is the transformer. I was actually surprised. This thing's over 2 decades old, but apparently it has the capacity to be expanded because it never had full capacity. So they're actually going to relocate it. It's hard for you to see on this map, but the building on the right, there's a little box. It looks like there's little lines. Those lines are a fence. That's the transformer. That transformer is now moving to this new location. And in the easement that goes right across between the two properties where we are now, and you can see all the different lines, is where the charging station is going to end up. So the transformer will be there charging. We had to do a last-minute change. By the way, this has cost us $66,000 to do this upgrade. And the El Paso Electric Company is paying whole cost.
Wow.
Because they have the money to do it, and they're hoping we do a lot more things. They're going to be hearing a lot more about this. As Adam comes to present, I'm going to have him do it because we're getting grants and rebates, and all these are things that are not yet in the budget, Adam. So we'll get there. We're getting credits for it, in kind. So I'm just excited to show that. You'll also see the gate up on the top. We have 2 different gates. The other one you can't see on the picture. That's going to become an electronic gate. One of the other things we're going to introduce, I mentioned this at the last meeting, will be gate cards and keys. We have cards now, but they're not electronically driven, and we have no idea who has the card and so on and so forth. All that's going to be part of our upgrades. We do have fencing all around the facility. Down at the bottom, you see a line there and a little arrow. There is no fence there. That will have to be going in because that's going to show the difference between our property and the 3.5 acres that we chose not to buy. Ridership. So I undercounted our ridership. Last meeting, we were about 132,400 something. Actually, we ended up adding another 553. So we had the special numbers. So we carried just short of 133,000. Most interesting is we carried nearly 14,000 for the month. In the first 2 weeks, I calculated the numbers. We're going to blow that number way out. We're going to be well over 14,000. So ridership's doing very well. You can see by line. Obviously, the lion's share is coming out of our yellow route, which we inherited from El Paso. However, the silver route is a route that we created with the purple route, which we already had, so that's 19. So between those two, we've added over 20,000 rides, half of which was to a route that didn't exist before we merged and started doing all this. So the services all play upon one another, and everything's going very well. Obviously, the blue is still just getting started, but I'll tell you, the blue is well ahead of where the green route was at this time. So I have a lot of hope for that. I think the big route that we're going to spend a lot of time on in the coming year is the copper route. I believe that copper route numbers can double. We're going to really grow that in the coming 2 years. So a lot of opportunities there, and that's going to help the people in Las Cruces and Doña.
And sorry, real quick, if you don't, before going, I'm just curious on the copper route.
Sure.
It seemed like from the summer coming into the fall, there was just that big jump, and I don't know what. And I'll say honestly, I've seen the stop closest to my house, which is at the Big Star Ace, I've seen more people
the hatch,
occasionally
yeah.
getting on
That
and
hatch
off.
has doubled, pretty much. Yeah, it's done very well. And that special was the 432 people we carried on the Chili Festival. So that was a combination of the two routes. We just left that separately, but that was that and the shuttle and some other stuff.
Yeah, but is there a reason what's driving that increased ridership on the copper route of the last few months?
Should
I
tell
don't know
the
if it
truth?
just, if there was anything that you could point. I was just curious. I didn't know if
But
we
I'm
had
gonna let
increased.
Tim answer that. Tim, what do you know? You're the one that rides these things. If you may.
There was what?
A staffing change, we had a different operator, but the actual thing is too, is that we weren't picking up, and because of the staffing change, the drivers now are picking up people over at Pellegrino's, right there. Yeah, yeah. And so we're actually helping Roadrunner, because Roadrunner is getting overcrowded. So between the two of us, we're now picking up all those rides that are coming through there. So it's amazing that one stop will make a difference, but I do believe that the ridership is all the way across, because we are seeing ridership. In fact, we're meeting tomorrow to go over some of these things. We're trying to get a sense of where can we do things differently. We've added some stops here and there, and so, yeah. So there you go.
Awesome.
That's the answer.
Thank you.
It's growing. Yes.
Yes, Councilor Flores.
Thank you,
And if you don't mind getting the mic, sorry.
Mr. Armijo, so the blue, where is the blue?
That's a Sierra
Where's-
County route.
That's a Sierra County, and it's a new one.
You went, yes.
And
It's
it
only been
just-
2 months.
It's only been there 2 months? And, okay. It's doing well, actually, for 2 months, well. it was a
Given
little-
how far away it is.
Well, and I think it's interesting because I think the only feedback that I've gotten from, I had some constituent meetings in my district, and I think the only comment, and I think I've told you this, and I think it's not, I think it's probably come up, is that I think next summer, people are like, it would be amazing if we could figure out the blue route and have it running on the weekend, so that way people can ride it from Hatch up to Elephant Butte, have some fun, and then leave in the early afternoon and come back down. And so that was the one thing that they're excited about. But again, I think overall we've had good, when I was in Garfield and Radium Springs, particularly the feedback that I've heard through the grapevine, so to speak, has been very positive because of the fact that they now have choices in Hatch. They can either take the green route, come into Cruces and hit the Walmart, hit the mall, or they can just go up on the blue and hit the Walmart and stores in Tier C and visit friends. Like I said, it's just given them
More
like,
options.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting because I wouldn't have thought so much about where they wanted to have more, it connects that Hatch Valley to more options without having to drive themselves.
I think our big challenge is the summer months when Elephant Butte opens up and really gets to its peak of the season. And I think at that point, if we can do something to maybe augment it, like you mentioned, weekends or whatnot. But in the end of the day, what we're going to find in Elephant Butte in that effort is an incredibly increase in local traffic. And I think that's what you're leaning towards. And that was part of the conversation that we're having is it between cruises? Is it local, whatever? And the answer is it's both. It's all these different things making the connections.
Well, and I think it's just, and this is, I don't mean, this will be the last comment before we can continue. I just want to say, the absolute, and this is when the creation of the green route, but I still continue to hear this, is that this service, the RTD, gives people in my district so many more options exactly like that. But even if they can't get to a Ben Archer and Hatch, they can go to the one in Radiant Springs. They can go to the one in Doña. They can, those are the types of things that's kind of a cool story. And I just wanted to share with everybody because that's the feedback I'm getting from my constituents. And really, I've been very surprised with the blue because, I didn't expect it to take off as it is, but people are, and I think they said the only thing was that they'd love to see more advertising, but otherwise it's been very, very positive in my district. They love that we're starting that service up north.
Well, we are working on a local paper and some other ads, but we'll find some new ideas. All right, I'll move forward. So I wanted to show that in the New Mexico matching grant, the one that, quite frankly, I have to give a lot of thanks to Adam coming on board Tim coming on board when he did. We submitted this grant for the 5339, and overall it's 2.8 million, which includes a local match and the federal funds. But why we did this grant is multitasked. If you look, I know it's hard to see the map, but the map has two areas on the map that are circled in red. The larger one up on the left side, that is the Mesilla Valley Hospital. We have been parking buses there in the open field over time, and then we start our buses there because our nearest bus facility is in Anthony. That's 25, 30 miles away. So this allows us to save the deadhead and fueling charges and labor that we would spend. What we're now looking at doing is moving that to the smaller red spot, acquiring two parcels of roughly 3.2 acres. That's well within the budget because we had estimated about 800,000 and it's actually 500,000. So we buy these two properties. They're flat, allows the buses that currently come out of the green route comes down on Del Rey. That's the street in front. And it will turn on the street before the light or the freeway. I always get that baton mixed up. And it turns on Mars. Makes a left turn on Mars and a right turn on Venus. And so the upside of the red line, that's Venus, and we would actually have a transfer station there, very similar to what Roadrunner was doing on the other side of the freeway. So buses could pull over, there'd be shelters, there'd be some kind of faster amenities and restroom, whatever, and people could use that as a layover point. We'd also park buses there at night. And over time, when we felt we needed a maintenance facility, we could use that area to build a small, kind of a Butler building type thing with maybe 2 maintenance bays or something like that. So we could do that. Our current facility in Anthony is only half an acre. This is 3.2 acres. So it doesn't look that big on the map, but it's sizable. It's 5 times the size. So that money came in. The Venus bus facility, we've already been advanced the money from the state, so we're able to start moving. We project that to be 23 months. I'll come back at a future meeting and share with you. We do have an implementation plan. I've shared that with the state this week. They approved the plan and are advancing that. They're also going to give us, under the $455,000 Venus facility grant, they're going to give us another $135,000 for startup. So that startup is going to pay for the NEPA, the environmental review. It's going to pay for our legal costs. And it's going to pay for the engineering design to start that property up. So we had expected to use the federal funds for that, but we can now use those funds, and then those federal funds we would then leverage to do more of the development on the property. So yeah, we're pretty excited about this. And then Adam has, excuse me, I keep saying Adam, we're sitting next to each other. Tim has also submitted another grant for the fueling. I'm gonna let Tim do that.
So yeah, we submitted 2 grants actually under the CFI program, which is through the United States Department of Transportation. This is for public charging stations for electric vehicles. And so one of the grants was for this new Venus facility, and then one was for the new Sunland Park facility that we are closing on here shortly. So these would include, as applied for, rapid chargers, like the ones you see out front here, that will be for shorter charge periods, and then they would also include some like slower, longer term chargers for people who can stay longer, like, overnight and that sort of thing. Those are generally better on the batteries, but both locations would include both. It would be, I think, a draw for a park and ride kind of situation for both instances. But yeah, so we submitted that September 11th, so we should probably hear back in January, give or take.
Yeah, we received a letter of support from Senator Heinrich's office on this. So we're optimistic because they didn't fill all the grant opportunities last go around, so they've increased the funding. So we think we have a good shot at this one. The property will be sublet or broken. There's actually an easement on the back side. There's a gas station right there on the corner. So we think the public facility could be on that other side of the gas station, and maybe that's something we work together. We also see this as a potential for an enterprise fund. So we got to work with a gas company, electric company, I should say, on how we want to do all this stuff. But it has the potential to generate enough energy on that property to fuel the power for the buses that will be parked there. And it also opens the door on the public side, our side, not the private, where we're going to do all that public facility, to charge not just our buses, but we could also charge the buses for Roadrunner, since they're going to be in that area. And it also leaves us a nice little spot for the microtransit that we're talking about doing. So from there, we would be able to attach ourselves to the East Mesa, which allow us to go up into the county, because it's split between the city and county, go past the high school and go on up into Oregon Community Center, almost to where the NASA and all that stuff is. So we'd be able to hit a huge part of the county that has no bus services, very limited bus, only the one bus route that has very limited service and stops along that way. So that's a huge growth area that has little or no transportation.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Bliss.
So thank you so much for going into how this is growing and how wonderful it is, because I represent that part of the world, my world. And I know that when I've gone to speak to constituents there about, you know, their water issues, their septic tank issues, this, that, and the other, they invariably say, you know, we just can't get into town. You know, we just can't get into town. And so it's been like the forgotten child. I was going to say the bastard child, but it sounds kind of crass, and I'm such a lady. But it's really been forgotten, and it's really heartbreaking because people say that they actually have to set a whole day apart, set it aside to make their big trip into town. And, you know, most of us jump into a car, we're there in 10 minutes, and, you know, so this makes me very, very happy. It's uniting southern New Mexico and Las Cruces. So dynamite, thank you.
Thank you. Our project schedule in this is 23 months, but it does depend on the federal government working through this process, which I'm going to discuss in a minute, and how fast we get to that part of the money. We have the state money. This is 100%, as of right now, it's 100% funded through federal and state funds. 100%. Yeah. All right, let me move on. I'm not going to really talk much about the solar array because we've talked about that before, although I do have it on this slide, so I guess I will talk about it. I found this past week. This is actually, this is in Mexico City, you know, and Mexico City has gone crazy on a solar power plan to try to put solar on every building there is. We're going to be looking at some of that too. I'll talk about that at a future date on our facilities. We've programmed 2 facilities already for the buses. So the buses will get canopies and solar panels on those. Those are coming out of some of our urban funds out of El Paso. But the important thing for that is that they will cool the buses down there in the summer, attach solar to those panels, and generate additional revenue. On top of that, our solar array project that we plan is a 2-acre area that we're going to do. We've got funding for the first phase. We're going to try and get some more federal funds for the second phase. But we look to generate enough power to support the electric buses that will be there. Initially 3 buses, but with the electric vans, there will be, actually within the next 6 months, there will be 5 buses and 2 vans, 7 electric vehicles. And so we hope to have enough power for that, but also enough power to power both buildings, both the maintenance side of the building and the administrative side, and even excess capacity. How much excess capacity we don't yet know. We have estimates. If we had the full project of 4 acres, the way I originally planned it, it would have been enough for 2,600 houses to be powered, and roughly at 1 gigawatt. So we're going to be a fraction of that, but over time we'll get there. Yes.
I think there's just background noise.
So the concept here is to create an enterprise fund and actually not only have a good footprint for carbon, but also generate revenue. Okay, there we go. Let me move on. Other matching grants include the $278,000. This is the operating funds. We just had a conference call with El Paso, Sun Metro. We're still trying to get our grant approved and get a side letter agreement so we can get that process started. That allows Adam to start working on the financials. We figure we're several months away on that, but we're trying to get there. That grant is over $636,000 plus or minus capital operating, covers the area that I show on the map and all these routes. About the $278,000 really is the operating funds we get, maintenance, fuel, all these different things. It's a huge part of where this goes. But the New Mexico matching grant is the 278, so they're going to fund us up front, our local match to that, because much of that project is 50-50 operating, so it's not as good, not the full 80-20, but it's a combination. So that's going to be a huge help to us, and that should get into our budget within the next few weeks, I hope, if not longer. So we're doing pretty well this year. We're getting a lot more money, and thank God for House Bill 177, because that created the New Mexico Matching Fund, and it's really paid off for us. Also, future initiatives. So that if I can shift you to a 10-year plan. So under the 10-year plan that you just approved, and we're going to get the RFP out this Sunday, we're going to look at a number of things. One of the big ones that we look into that is going to be the microtransit. We've already talked a little bit about how that could help on the East Mesa for the Venus project, but we see opportunities in Sunland Park. We see it maybe for BIA going up into the Business Industrial Park, and we'll have more details on that in the future. I also thought I'd put a couple of things in here that are a little, could be controversial, but I'm going to throw them in there because, you know, you do a 10-year plan, you got to have things in there for debate and discussion and get some public reaction. Since I have been here, and by the way, my anniversary is next week, 9 years. I know you gave me a pin last month, but it's 9 years as of next week on the 1st of November. Lots of discussion about an airport. The problem with getting transit service to the airport in Las Cruces is that only the airport is in Las Cruces. Everything between the two red points, other than the first line, it's all in the county. So in the end, we would probably use, I guess that's Picacho coming in that way, the old highway. And so, and you can see it opens up. And as you look at that, all that area that's on this map is by and large has no public transit services. You have one bus stop out here, so you have some service here, but very limited, but nothing up north of that red line, nothing. There's nothing up there, nothing from the city, nothing from the county. And this kind of illustrates the challenge we're going to have as we go into the 10-year plan and start looking at what have we reached, what have we not reached. So that's a huge challenge. I always have to compare Las Cruces. So Las Cruces has 50 square miles of service. We're now at 175 square miles of service going throughout the county because we have so much area. It's not that one's better than the other. They're just two different. One's pure urban, one's mostly rural. But this is something I think would be good to have customer comments. And when we do the outreach at some of the community areas, and Commissioner, we're going to start this probably in the spring next year. So hopefully we can connect some of these outreach and meetings and discussions with the public, you know, so we can have more discussions. And I'm talking all the commissioners and even the city council as we go forward. The other one, number one on the list when we did the 10-year plan and when we were doing the commuter rail study, which is about 7 years ago, is an airport route. And I've always stayed away from this because I figured, you know what, going to the airport from Cruces, you know, we have the limousine service, Las Cruces cab. Well, they just canceled their routes. They're not doing services anymore. And I have used Uber and Lyft. It's about $60 to $75 for a one-way trip. From Las Cruces to the airport, yeah. Almost any time. So, and I've been, well, they were charging over $100 is what I was told for the taxi cab here locally. I can't even understand how they can't make profit doing that. I don't understand it. So I think it's something that we should at least have conversations with, and that's going to be a discussion item. We'll bring this back to the board as we go through some of these things before we start to do the study. But, you know, for economic development for Las Cruces, this ought to be something that both the city and the county, we need to work on together, because I think this is something that's missing. I like the idea of throwing this to the MPO. I think it's a perfect policy board discussion, even with the town of Mesilla, because it's right there as well. So there's a great opportunity here, and I think we should try to look at it. There are transit systems around the country that do this. Typically, they're larger. The best one I ever rode, but they no longer do it, was Indianapolis. The city of Indianapolis actually had this great shuttle service that operated regularly to downtown. They had about 5 or 6 stops downtown, and they looped back out to the airport. So anyway, and then, so now let me talk about number 12. So as I tee up this one, the New Mexico DOT, we made a grant request. Interesting enough, and I'm glad that these two gentlemen are here with me, we were actually in our discussions in Santa Fe this summer, we were asked, why don't you guys do a direct recipient? And like you're doing in El Paso. And I go, well, we'd love to do that. So we started the process of, let's see if we can make it work. And then the state decided that, no, we don't think you should do that because the FTA doesn't approve of that. So as of yesterday morning, we were given full denial of our request to become a direct recipient. And I'm going to go through that here in just another slide in a minute as to what that really means. I know I've talked about it before. However, Senator Heinrich's office has now taken up the gauntlet here and is now working with discussions with the FTA. The discussion there is, if it's not necessarily regulatory, if it's within the purview of the FDA, then perhaps they can give us a waiver. So we're going to see if that goes anywhere. If not, this moves to the conversation I had recently with the board, which is perhaps we need to start looking at going to the governor and working to designate a grant recipient. You guys already know that discussion. Is there a question?
No, I don't think.
Okay. So just this slide is just simply a quick and dirty reminder. So the current system as a sub-grant recipient, Mr. Adam Shea has to submit his, I know I'm pulling you in here, Adam. He cannot submit any invoice for request for funding until after 30 days have gone by. The federal government, or the state has 30 more days to review and approve those expenses. Now, if there's some issues with it, there could be a further delay, but at a minimum, it's 60 days before we would receive our expenses. And for operations, that means 4 payrolls have to go by, which means we have to keep a lot of cash on hand. And that's what this is really all about. It's about cash flow. Additionally, the district now, as of January this year, the state withdrew from paying for buses. Up until January, even the buses we would get, which were only a few $100,000, now we're looking at $1 million for electric bus. They no longer pay the vendor directly. We have to pay the vendor and submit for reimbursement, and again, go through the same process. At $1 million plus, this shifts the burden onto the district to the point it's almost impossible to respond to that. Yes?
So David, what is the likelihood, you can submit for reimbursement. Does it mean you're going to get the money? Does it mean you're going to be reimbursed?
I have that in a coming slide.
Ah.
Thank you.
It sounds ominous.
Thank you, Counselor.
I'm sorry I asked.
You're very good. So as a direct recipient, the New Mexico region can approve grants and advance funds through ECHO. So it's the next slide actually, but let me go through this one slide. So basically what Adam does when he's getting funding from FTA out of El Paso, he's a direct recipient in that moment. So Adam will submit the request on an approved grant, and the ECHO, which pays for the funds, can reward or respond to him within about 72 hours, plus or minus. And we hit that pretty well, not 60 days. So 3 days instead of 60 days through the FTA as a direct recipient. So this reduces our timeline by 57 days or more, and it gives us access to approve the grant funding that has been expended. So having the direct aspect allows us. So let me get to the next slide. So this one tells you where we've been since the spring. And Counselor, if I may, you actually brought this up at a recent meeting. Why haven't we moved more quickly on this? Well, this slide actually tells you we've been moving all over the place. So last spring, we had this conversation with the board. The board at that time approved us doing a BMO application, and we got that finally in the process. So historically, we've done like a $60,000 request. Well, at this point in time, $60,000 doesn't do anything for us. And so we started working with the New Mexico Finance Authority. We looked at about a $400,000 number because we didn't really want to overextend ourselves because then you have to pay back and so on and so forth. That $400,000, when reviewed by New Mexico Finance Authority during the last 30 days, they basically opened their own conversation with the county because they saw our county grant, which is almost $1 million, as a better instrument to connect to. And they asked us to do a multi-year contract, and we started working on that. However, in a recent meeting, and I know Commissioner Sanchez was present, there was a discussion, and the staff at the county, because we've been under contract with them now for almost 8 years, basically said, you know what, we can do this for you. $400,000 is within our range, and we can make this work. And so I've now done a justification to them. I'm going to share that with the board. I just did that this morning because I've been making changes on documents. I've been working with the finance department for the county. And then they'll take that information forward to the next board meeting, which is going to be November the 12th. And at that time, the funds could be increased, and it would really help us with our reserve. And it's up to 400,000. We wouldn't necessarily do the full amount. Now, to get to your question, Madam Counselor, if you can see that. So what are the district's financial options? So the first one is advance the grant payments. That's what you were asking. Advance the grant payments to alleviate cash flow problems. And so the New Mexico DOT has denied that request. The second option is seek reimbursement acceleration. That has also been denied. So they are going to stand on their laurels that they have 30 days to expense it and 30 days to review it. That's just the way it is, and that's what our contract is. So we'll always wait 60 days to access our money. I mean, if you go back to the sheet, I believe Mr. Shea showed on there that there's like $78,000 that's still as a accounts receivable, right? We don't have that. And it's been worse than that, so that's actually not bad. So that leads us to the last 2 points. The dollar point being that we could use a short-term loan as an alternative, and that's under consideration with what I just laid out for the county. And then the last one would be to mitigate financial disruption while meeting capital obligations as a sub-grant recipient. A change in status is under consideration. That's now, we're at the point of our senator intervening on our behalf with the FTA. So now if the senator's office can get that dialogue moving towards a waiver or some status change, then that would fix this problem and we would have access to all the funds. Now, I've asked for that even under the 5339, which is his $11 to $12 million he just showed you, and they've said no to that. So that could become a next battle, even if we get the direct recipient status, that we might still not be given the access to the trams. And so that's problematic. So for us, we don't even see our grants that are in trams that are in there under the state because we're a subrecipient. We have no access to that. And there you go. Questions?
Thank you. And just a heads up, I realize I've got about 8 more minutes and then I have a hard stop. So, and I know we're at the end of this. I just wanted to at least put it out there. And I know there was still one more item for discussion, but board members, are there any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
And I appreciate it. And I appreciate, by the way, David, the conversation that we had with, as potential options. So that way we can figure out what may work best for the district. So I appreciate the dialogue so we can, and being open to trying to figure out how find some solutions.
A lot of people are trying to help us. I really don't want to leave you without knowing that. A lot of people are trying to help us, both in the county staff or finance. Thank God that they really are helping. And then the senator's office. It's amazing. So we're not alone. That helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much, David. All right. So we're down to second to last item, which is agenda item number 14, which is future agenda items.
I have none.
Okay.
At this time. I think we've covered everything for the moment.
All right. Well, and then before we adjourn, I didn't know if there was any updates or comments from the board, if they'd like to make any comments before we adjourn. Okay. Just wanted to give the opportunity. All right, then if that's the case, then then we'll reach the end of our agenda. If I can get a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved by Flores.
All right, I have a motion by Councilor Flores. I will second that motion, Commissioner Sanchez. And then we will call this meeting adjourned at 2:59 p.m.
Wow.
Thank you.
Good meeting.
Appreciated the discussion. We will maybe not see you all in November.
As much as I'd love to see all of you, I won't.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Mayor.
Bye.
Thank you, trustees.
Bye-bye.